The cold wind howled through the forest by the lake, sweeping flurries of snow across the ground until the world was wrapped in white silence. At the edge of the frozen lake, a small wooden house stood alone, its windows glowing softly against the night. Inside, Sophia stood by the fireplace, hands stretched toward the flickering flames, though her thoughts were far away. She pulled her sweater tighter around her frame and stared out the window, where the road had vanished beneath layers of ice. Patrick wouldn't be home tonight, not that it surprised her anymore. His work always came first. Still, the absence carved a hollow ache inside her she couldn't ignore. Soft footsteps creaked across the wooden floor behind her. She turned to find Ethan standing just beyond the shadows, his hoodie damp with snow, eyes distant. "Why are you still awake?" she asked, keeping her voice soft. "I couldn't sleep," he replied, his gaze fixed on the flames. "A storm like this reminds me of Mom. She loved the snow. She used to drag me outside to build snowmen until we couldn't feel our hands." Sophia's heart tightened. 2 years as his stepmother, and yet they still circled each other like strangers. She stepped closer, but not too close. "You still have your dad, and you have me," she offered, though the words felt flimsy. Ethan gave a faint, bitter smile. "Dad's never here. It's always work. And you—" He stopped himself, biting his lip. "What about me?" she asked. His eyes met hers, full of hurt. "Nothing. I shouldn't have said anything." "Ethan," she said gently, "don't keep everything in. I'm here. Really." He looked at her for a long moment, shoulders trembling, then nodded faintly and slipped upstairs. Sophia stayed by the fire, the weight of his words heavy on her chest. She thought of Patrick, how distant he had become. He had once been the man who made her feel seen, who swept her into a world of art and elegance. But that love had long since faded into obligation. He didn't notice her loneliness, or maybe he just didn't care. And Ethan, he had entered her life like a shadow, quiet, haunted, beautiful, in a way that made her uneasy. The grief of losing his mother had shaped him, carved something delicate and broken into his soul. Sophia had tried to reach him, but he always kept a wall between them, until now. In the following days, that wall began to crack. There were quiet moments, shared glances, brushed hands in the kitchen, the way his eyes lingered on her a second too long. She tried to ignore it, to blame her imagination. But a week ago, everything changed. Patrick had left on another business trip. That night, Sophia found Ethan sitting on the back steps, staring out over the frozen lake. His figure looked ghost-like in the snow. "Ethan," she said gently, offering him a mug of cocoa. "You'll freeze out here." He took it, but didn't drink. "Sometimes the cold feels honest," he said. "It doesn't pretend." Sophia sat beside him, heart aching. "I know that feeling," she whispered. Their eyes met, and in that quiet, charged space, something passed between them, something raw and unspoken. That was the night she first admitted it to herself. She wasn't just worried about Ethan. She felt drawn to him, seen by him. Now, days later, the storm still raged outside, mirroring the one in her chest. Near midnight, Sophia sat curled in an armchair, blanket wrapped tight, eyes fixed on the fire. She felt like she was waiting. For what? She didn't know. Then footsteps again. Ethan appeared at the edge of the room, wearing a gray sweater and sweatpants. His eyes were shadowed, his hair tousled. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. She shook her head, gesturing to the sofa. He sat, not too close, not too far. "This storm, It makes it hard to breathe, like everything's buried. Sophia nodded. Sometimes, the scariest part isn't being trapped. It's not knowing if getting out would change anything. Ethan's eyes locked onto hers. Do you ever feel like you're in the wrong life? Her breath caught. Yes, she whispered. Ethan leaned forward, voice trembling. I'm sorry. I shouldn't, but she touched his hand. It's okay. Sometimes the truth slips out when we need it to. The space between them shrank, and then his lips touched hers, soft, hesitant, a confession and a cry for help all at once. Sophia didn't stop him. Her heart betrayed her, answering a question she had tried to bury. When they pulled apart, the fire still flickered, but everything else had changed. I shouldn't have done that, Ethan said, voice shaking. I know, Sophia said. But we did. The next morning, sunlight filtered through thick snow. Sophia sat at the kitchen table, her untouched coffee cold. She hadn't slept. Ethan entered, cautious, but more grounded than the night before. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded. Will be, somehow. Before anything more could be said, a knock shattered the stillness. The door opened and in walked Amber, bundled in snow-covered layers, her eyes sharp as ever. Storm's crazy, she said brightly. Mind if I crash here for a while? Sophia forced a smile. Of course. Amber's eyes flicked between Sophia and Ethan. She said nothing, but her expression said it all. After a tense, silent breakfast, Amber tugged Sophia outside under the guise of getting fresh air. What's going on? Amber asked bluntly. Don't lie to me. Sophia looked away. It's complicated. Amber's voice sharpened. That's Patrick's son. I know. And Patrick, he's not innocent either. He's been cheating. For years, Amber blinked. So, what? You found comfort in Ethan? Sophia's throat tightened. It wasn't planned, but he sees me. In a way, Patrick never did. Amber sighed, her tone softening. You're not a bad person, Sophia. But this can destroy everything. I know, Sophia whispered. But pretending it's not there won't fix it either. They stood in silence, the storm easing to a quiet flurry around them. Inside, Ethan sat alone, staring into the fire, his heart heavy but certain. Whatever happened next, none of them would ever be the same again.